Hi friends, and welcome back to my channel, the one and only Stony Baloney. If you're new here, go ahead and hit that like and subscribe button and also hit the notification bell for notifications. Also today I will be leaving links to my TikTok, Instagram, and Snapchat. If you want to follow me there or subscribe to what I'm doing, you can find me there as well. So as you can see from my title, today I will be talking about my very first professional audition, and it's more about the trip experience and not the audition itself, although I will get into that. Also, I want to preface that this was my worst/best audition experience ever. It took so many turns, it had its ups and downs, and it was crazy, but let's get into it. So before I get into the actual story part, I'm gonna go a little bit back into my background of how I got into auditioning professionally. Basically, straight out of high school, I was gonna go to college, didn't end up going, and just did college online. And basically, I kept up with my dance training and I did a little bit of community theater here and there. And I was working in insurance with my dad, which wasn't really what I wanted to do at the time, but I needed some sort of income. So as I was looking to branch out, I did a ton of research and stumbled upon the world of regional theater. I had no idea it existed before, but I did a little bit of research into that. And one day I stumbled upon a link to an audition site, and I found that there were ongoing auditions for a production of Newsies, which I was currently in a community theater production setting. So since I was already familiar with the show, I decided to audition. So I found out about the audition about a month before the audition took place. So once I made the decision to go, I did a ton of planning to make sure that this trip was gonna happen. So basically I planned an entire weekend trip around this audition, and it was about a 6-hour drive, but I don't care to drive in a car for that long. So I took a train from my hometown to the city that the audition was with, and it was about the same. It was 6 hours minus a 1-hour bus transfer, which wasn't too bad. So now that I had my train ticket both ways, it was time for me to get a hotel. So I booked a hotel about 3 weeks in advance, and I paid ahead of time. They took like half of a payment, and then when you get there, you pay the other half. So I had everything that I needed to go. I looked up places that I could eat to make sure they had vegan options, and made sure they had a good Uber service there so I could get from place to place when I needed to, and everything was set. I spent probably close to $1,000 on this entire trip, and I was so glad that I ended up booking the show, but it was crazy. Also, as soon as I got there, they found out where I was from, and they told me that I could have just submitted a video audition, which was too late at that point, but I wanted the audition experience, and for the most part, I did have a good time. So now that that was all sorted out, it was time for me to pack and get ready to go. I packed everything up, had my audition book, headshot, resume, and since it was for a production of Newsies that I was auditioning for, I decided to bring every single tap shoe, every single ballet shoe, jazz shoe, whatever they're gonna throw at me, I was gonna be able to do in the audition. So finally the day came where I was gonna get on the train and go, and I got there at about 4 a.m. because I think it was 4:30 a.m. that I was leaving, so I got there at 4, and I waited for about 45 minutes because they were running late. So I used to always think that trains ran on time, but that is a lie at Amtrak. Amtrak, please don't sue me. But anyways, I wasn't too worried about it because I had planned to get there the day before, so I left on a Friday, got there on Friday, and then the audition was Saturday. So like I said, the train ride was about 6 hours, so I got there around like 10:30, 11-ish, something like that, and then I waited for about 5 hours at a bus stop in the middle of, I think it was Galesburg, Illinois, something like that. Or Galesburg, Iowa. Hey Google, Galesburg, Illinois.
Sorry, I didn't understand.
Whatever. Galesburg something, I don't know. So anyways, I'm waiting there, and I go get some food, I come back, I go over my audition materials, make sure I know everything, and the bus was supposed to get there, I think like 4-ish, something like that, and they get there again late at 4:30, which was fine. I didn't need to be anywhere. I wasn't in a rush, so it was fine. Well, I finally get on the bus, and the bus driver, I guess, was getting into it with one of the passengers because the passenger fell asleep and didn't get off or something like that. I don't know. So they were going at it for about 30 minutes, and I was just seated, waiting, ready to go. So at this point, I was a little irritated, but like I said, I didn't need to be anywhere. I just wanted to make sure that I was gonna get to my hotel with enough time to rest before the audition. We finally get moving on the bus, and it's about an hour drive, and we were going to Rock Island, Illinois, which is where my audition was. So after I got dropped off from the bus in Rock Island, I take an Uber to Davenport, Iowa, where my hotel is. I go in, I'm ready, I have my ID ready, I have my phone number ready for them, and they tell me that I do not have a reservation. Y'all, when I tell you I like flipped out, like not on them, but like internally I was like freaking out, and I was like, oh, could you like maybe run it again or something like that. I didn't want to like come off as pushy, but like I had planned 3 weeks ahead of time and had, you know, everything sorted out and everything paid for. So they ran it again and still no luck. I was like, okay, Stone, calm down. We're gonna get this taken care of. I look at my reservation on my phone, the confirmation email, and it turns out that there were 2 of those same hotels in Davenport, Iowa. So I was like, oh, okay. So that was resolved. I got another Uber, which was more money, but it was fine because I came with emergency money, like I said before. I get in the other Uber, go to the other hotel. This time I'm like, okay, everything's sorted out. I go in, I introduce myself, I say, hey, I have a reservation for Stone Snowden. They look, and my name is there. I confirmed my email, I confirmed my phone number, and then the last thing that they had me do was give them my ID to make sure I was who I said I was, which makes sense. So he looks at my ID thoroughly and then takes out his calculator, does some math, and I'm like, okay, like what's going on? And he's like, you're only 20 years old. And I'm like, yeah, I'm 20 years old. Like, that's what it says. He looks back up and he's like, you have to be 21 to stay here. At this point in the trip, I was ready to throw something. Not necessarily at him, because it wasn't like his fault, but like I had prepared everything and just nothing was going right that day, and I was over it. So I tried to work something out with him. I'm like, hey, I had this reservation for about 3 weeks. I signed up online. It even asked me how old I was, and I put 20, and everything went through. I even paid the first half. I'm willing to pay the second half. I'm literally here for an audition. I'm not here to like party and make like a huge mess with my friends or anything like that. So like, I don't know what the concern was there. But basically, I didn't want him to risk his job for me, because that's not fair to ask of him. So I was like, okay, that's fair. You know, I can find other arrangements. Can I at least get the money that I paid you back? And when I tell you, it was not a cheap hotel. It was like maybe like $250 a night, because I did not want to stay in like a Motel 8 and feel like gross the day of my audition. So before I can even like ask him again to make sure that I'll get my money back, he gets a phone call. So he takes that phone call, then he gets 2 more phone calls, and he takes them right in front of me. And so I go sit down, and as soon as he gets off the phone, I stand up and I look at him, and he rudely said to me, "Can I help you with anything else?" And I had to say to myself, the Lord is my shepherd and I shall not want. Oh my God, I was so pissed. I look at him and I'm like, yeah, you kind of have my ID in your hand and I'd like that back, please. So he like rudely gives me my ID back, and I'm like, well, this is great. I need to find another hotel. Get to Googling, and I Google hotels near me. And at this point, I would take anything, even if it was like a 3-star, whatever. Like, I'm not super bougie, but like if I have the money for it, I'll splurge on a nice hotel. So I look up a hotel, and there's one, like, it said 2.3 miles away from me was the closest hotel, and it was a straight shot. So I go to sit down to charge my phone, because my phone was at 5%, and I look in my bag for my charger, and it's not there. Turns out I left it in the Uber that I took. Mind you, this was my one and only charger that I brought, so I guess I wasn't as prepared as I thought I was. So anyways, yes, my phone was at 5%. I was in a town that I had never been in before, and I had no transportation because I didn't have enough juice in my phone to order an Uber. So at this point, I just risk it, and I walk 2.3 miles, one direction because it was a straight shot, to the Holiday Inn, and I literally take my luggage and walk on the, I think it's called the High Pass. It's not like a highway, but it's similar to a highway, or like overpass, something like that. I don't know. Whatever it was called, it wasn't safe. So I get to the hotel and I go up to the desk and the lady's like, "Do you have a reservation?" And I'm just like,
oh Lord. Again. Again. Nothing new, nothing changed, same old shit. Same old fucking shit.
And I was like, "No, I do not have a reservation, but I would like to stay here if that's possible." And she was like, "Yeah, that's fine." I said, "Before you even start this, how old do you have to be to stay here?" And she says 21. And I told her I was 20. And as soon as I was ready to leave, she like told me to come back. She was like, "Come here." And she whispered, she goes, "I got you, just don't tell anyone." I almost jumped over the counter and gave her the biggest hug. I was so freaking happy. My feet hurt. I was over it. It was not a good day, and she just made my day. She starts checking me in. She asked me all these questions, and she gave me a discount because she could just tell I was having that kind of day. So I get to my room, I unpack everything, shower off, and then I go to the gift shop to get a charger for my phone because that is a priority at this point. Then I get my clothes ready for the audition the next morning, make sure I have everything, and then I go to bed and rest. So the morning of the audition comes and I get up, I do my stretches, I do my vocal warm-ups, drink some water. And then lucky for me, there was a Denny's across the street from the hotel that I was staying in. So I found some vegan options there and got fueled for the day. As I'm sitting there, I'm eating, but I'm also keeping track of time to make sure that I'm not late. I look back at the theater's website to make sure I have the right time and we're in the right time zone. And it turns out I was an hour off. Now I have to rush out of Denny, got my food to go, and then I went back to the hotel to get changed. While at the same time, I'm trying to order an Uber to get me there on time. So I hop in the Uber, go to the theater, start stretching, get ready, and then I looked back on my phone and realized that it was the kids' audition time that was changed. So at this point, I'm sitting there and I'm just kind of meditating, getting my thoughts together before the audition. Then finally, after the kids are done auditioning, they invited all the adults to come up and get a number. Get my number, fill out my forms, I'm still stretching, still getting that mindset of auditioning. So I go up and I'm like what they call on deck. So you sit, you wait, and you hear the person before you sing, and then you go in. And then finally they call me to go in. I introduce myself, I give them my headshot, resume, all of that, give the accompanist my music to sing. Then I finally sing, mess up the words a couple of times. It wasn't the worst, it wasn't the best, it was my very first audition. I just took it for what it was and had a great experience with it. After all of that, I wait for all the other auditioners to finish singing their songs, and then they tell us who was going to stay and dance for the dance portion. So I think out of like the 40 people that were there during that particular audition that day, they took about 12 of us to dance. So we do a combo to Carrying the Banner, which is a song that I'm familiar with, and then the choreography was actually within my skill set. It had turns, leaps, pretty much everything that I do well in technical dancing. So I'm feeling good, feeling great, and then they make another cut. So they go from 12 to I think maybe 4. And from there, then they have us tap, which I study all types of dance, but tap is really one of my weakest styles. So I pretty much struggle through the entire tap combination, and even the other auditioners are trying to help me with it because it's down to like 4 people. So it was kind of like a group effort. But it really wasn't the worst, it wasn't the best, and I made a pretty good impression on the director. So from there, everything was kind of smooth sailing. I got asked to read a monologue, I read my monologue, struggled through that because I'm not really a crazy good actor, but it was good, and then after that, I was pretty much ready to go home and wait for the results. So right before I left, the director pulls me aside and asks me if I would like to go see a production of Mamma Mia with him, because the current show that that particular theater was doing was Mamma Mia. And it really caught me off guard because never in a million years would I think that at my very first audition, I'd be asked by a director to go see a show with him. So I was like, oh my gosh, yes, like I will go, that sounds great. So I rush back to my hotel, change, literally there's like an hour in between when the show starts. I get there and it's a dinner theater, so I sat and ate and waited for him to get there, and then we watched the show. The show was amazing. The costumes, the choreography, the acting, the set was gorgeous. On here, I'll post a picture. I did take a picture of the set because it was so pretty. After all of that, the director invited me to meet some of the cast members. So I was hanging out with a couple of the cast members and the director, and they asked if I wanted to go out to eat with them. So while the trip kind of sucked getting there, it was worth it, and I made some really good connections there. So basically at this time, all was good in my world. I was ready to go home. I had a successful audition trip. It wasn't perfect, but I felt good about it, and it was out of my hands at this point. So I go to bed, wake up the next morning, and checkout time's like 11, as most hotels are. And I get an Uber to the bus terminal that was gonna take me to the train station. So I got to the bus station and wait there for like 3 hours with my bus ticket in my hand. So finally, around the time that the bus was gonna get there, I stand up and I get ready. I have my ticket in my hand, and I wait for the bus to come. So I see the exact same bus with the exact same bus driver who got in that argument earlier, and I step out of the booth at the bus station to make it known that I'm going to be boarding this bus. And so he slows down for like a split second, looks at me, looks back at the road, then looks at me again, and then just keeps driving. I really thought at this point nothing was gonna get worse, but he just kept going and I had a train to catch. So I have to get another Uber for an hour trip. So by the time the Uber gets there, I literally have like 45 minutes until I needed to be there. Mind you, it was an hour away. Luckily, good old Amtrak never runs on time. So I have all my stuff, I'm in the Uber. The Uber ride was probably the most expensive Uber ride I've ever taken. And on top of that, I am not a mean person, so I tipped him very well. Finally, I get to the train station in Galesburg, and luckily they are running late again. Then I enjoyed a 6-hour ride home where I slept and got home at midnight. And then I waited. After 2 months, I got an email saying that they wanted me for both the production of Annie and Newsies, and that is how I got started in this business. If you made it this far in the video, thank you so much for watching. If you'd like to see more content like this, go ahead and like, subscribe, share, leave a comment if you want. Also, if you haven't already, make sure you go watch my previous video where I introduce myself and tell you what my channel is about. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you next time.